Namaste and welcome to Live, Love, Engage. I am Gloria Grace Rand, and today I am delighted to have a guest on the program who is a real leading authority on soul purpose. So we're going to be talking all about how to align with your soul purpose, some tools that you can use to do that, and so you're definitely going to want to pay attention to this one. My guest today is Jennifer Longmore, and she is also an elite business coach to enlightened entrepreneurs. She is a sought-after media personality, 3-time best-selling author, podcaster, with not one but 2 podcasts she just told me about that's just launched, which is amazing. And she is world-renowned for her laser-like clarity in seeing into the depths of your soul and bridging your connection to universal consciousness. And she's been doing this type of work for more than 15 years, really helping clients to shift their limiting beliefs and patterns that prevent them from really being who they truly are, so they can live their most abundant, aligned, and accelerated soul's journey. And she's worked with a lot of actors, well-known actors, professional athletes, CEOs, and continues to offer high-level sessions to folks who are really committed to shining their light, and which is what I am all about. So I'm delighted to welcome you to Live, Love, Engage. Jennifer, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. We're going to have some interesting conversations, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, we're recording this in, oh my gosh, it's the end of July already. Well, yeah, it is. It's the end of July. Today's the 23rd. And 2020 has been an interesting year. I know people I've listened to, some other thought leaders, have talked about this is really a year for clarity, and we hear the expression 2020 hindsight is always clear. Well, we're in the middle of, I guess, trying to figure out what the heck is all of this pandemic mean, and there's been a lot of stress and that. So what advice would you give to people to be able to help them to sort of get through all of what's going on and still be able to live a good, healthy life, and healthy, and even not only in physical body, but in their mind and soul?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a big question and such an important question. I think it really starts with taking care of our third eye. My guides have been very clear that we need to take care of our third eye and our energy body right now, because our third eye needs to be as clean and clear as possible, because we want to be really aware of our purpose, how we're here to serve, be aware of what's going on. And the other thing I've started to realize is that we're really mastering the art of living in the moment. We thought we knew what living in the moment was prior to all of this, but now we really get it. And so what I've gone through, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs have gone through, is this weird feeling of, I've got to help more people, I've got to get out there, but how do I plan when this seems to be a very steadily moving train? And how do I plan for the future when I don't know what travel is going to look like, and when I don't know, when speaking gigs will become a thing again, and all the different things.
Right.
And so what I'm really coaching people on right now is understanding that our business is actually our best investment. And this is even confirmed by my financial advisor. So I meet with him once a week and we do different things. And he said, and the stock market is very, I'll just say it's very interesting right now. So we've been trying to decide what to do with money and what not to do with money. And every week it kind of changes. One minute I'm being told to have all kinds of cash. The next minute I'm told to go buy this stock, right? But the stock market, sorry to say, is very rigged with AI. And it's rigged in the favor of some pretty big businesses. And I think we've seen one of the biggest stock market heists that we ever could have imagined, right? And so that's a whole other conversation. But he said, rather than investing in other people's businesses right now, trying to increase your return on investment, people really need to be investing in their own businesses. And so that's what I've done.
Mm.
Where it would have been easy to contract and say, I shouldn't spend money right now. I should do this. I should, reduce the hours of my team members. I should do whatever. Instead, I've asked my PR team to double the amount of podcasts that I get on.
Mm.
I have increased my ad spend for Facebook ads. I have gotten to some big projects that I wanted to launch, like my quiz that was just always this thing that would dangle until, it made sense to do it.
Right.
Redo the covers on my books, all kinds of things. And that actually feels good because we don't know what's going to happen, but we do know that we really need to take responsibility of building our own economy in a way that allows us to have true financial freedom.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that, because when all we really can count on is right now, what's going on right now, and in our world, in our own personal world, even for that matter. So to be able to invest in your business makes perfect sense. And not to mention, I mean, even history has shown that, like in other financial crises, for instance, in the Great Depression, that was like when some of the biggest businesses were formed, because for whatever reason, they invested in themselves and they stayed the course. And so I like that. But one thing you mentioned, though, I wanted to get back to, right at the beginning, you said about opening your third eye. And for maybe people who aren't familiar with that, or might be going, what? I mean, I'm hoping the people who are listening to this podcast are a little bit more aware, but just in case, how would you go about doing that? Maybe explain what is the third eye, and then how do you
Well, people would first have to believe they have one, and the second thing is they would need to see it as a valuable tool to use, right? So let's assume that those two things are at play. Then there's a lot of things we can do to decalcify our pineal gland, which we need to be doing because we need to have clarity. We really need to have clarity. So, to your point around businesses being created during these times, I agree. And we also want to look at who are the people that created those businesses, because what we've been told success looks like is different than what success actually is, and the things that they get up to behind the scenes and the liberties they take with our liberties to create those businesses, right? So when we look at a business like Twitter, we look at a business like Facebook, we know that they're up to a bunch of shady stuff. So when we, because I did it too, when we say that these businesses, look at them, they were born during these hard times. Well, they were born because there were certain energies at play that were not available to the common person. So when we keep our third eye clear, then we look at, okay, how do I decalcify my pineal gland so that I can see what's going on and make really informed decisions with what I see going on? So that means taking fluoride out of our toothpaste. Fluoride is a great calcifier of the pineal gland, and it creates a lot of issues. A lot of studies have shown dementia and similar types of things are created. And in fact, a lot of our health issues are created because our pineal gland then creates a ripple effect in other parts of the body. So making sure that we have water filters that take fluoride out of the water that they put in the water. And I take things like iodine. It's really great for that. Colloidal silver. I'm trying to think of what else I take. And then, anywhere that we can avoid our body needing to heal unnecessarily by boosting our immune system allows that energy reserve that would be spent decalcifying our pineal gland to just give us vitality, right? So anyways, with our third eye, we want to do that. I definitely recommend people listen to things. There's a lot of free things on YouTube, for example, frequency-based music that if we wear headsets, it's called binaural beats, and they can send basically waves between each hemisphere to awaken, even for me, and I've been doing this work for a long time, I still listen to that stuff because I've also come to the awareness that I know nothing about anything, right? Like we know such a minuscule amount of what we think we know. And with age, I guess with wisdom, we start to realize that. And so the reason why I like to keep my third eye clear for business is because I want to stay in tune with the consciousness of my business. I believe everything has consciousness. And so when I'm having a conversation, essentially, I'm not literally having a conversation with my business, but I am kind of tuning into it and asking how it wants to serve, what's the business model it wants to hold, how are we pricing things? There's a lot of things that we can use, and it makes life a lot easier. We can think it's harder, but it's actually easier when we just let our gut, our intuition, our third eye, whatever we want to call it, make the majority of the decisions. The key is to learn how to trust that and not be curious, right? We'll get a hit. Oh, don't drive, don't take Main Street. I don't know why I'm getting this intuitive hit to not take Main Street. And then we out of stubbornness, we're like, well, I'm curious. I want to know why my gut said not to go down Main Street. And then we get there and we're like, oh, 8-hour traffic jam. Great. I'm late for my meeting.
I know.
And so I do it too, where I'm a curious George, and I'll want to know why my intuition is telling me not to do something, right? I think that's just kind of in our nature. So it's not about being perfect with it, but it's about understanding that it can actually be a very profitable tool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I've so many times in the past, I would do exactly that. And it would be like, my intuition would say, go this way, and I wouldn't. And then I regret it always. So I have now gotten better at, for the most part, paying attention to that and heeding it, because things usually do work out much better when I do that. It's funny how it works. It's our higher power is really looking out for us if we would just listen to it. And it just requires letting go of that stubborn ego part of ourselves. Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you about is something that I know that you are very involved in, and something that I know a little bit about, which is something called the Akashic records. And I wondered if you could explain a little bit about what those are and why you believe that they are, I guess, like the only transformational tool someone needs to be able to create the life you've wanted.
The Akashic records hold information about who we are. So all the thoughts we've held, all the deeds we've engaged in, not just from this lifetime, but from other spaces and times. And then when we decide that we want to come to this planet, we meet with our guides in our Akashic records, and we look at everything. What have I learned? What have I mastered? What does my soul still want to learn? What does it want to contribute? What does the planet really need during this time? I think any of us that are connected spiritually, and I'm guessing everyone listening is, we all have this awareness, even though we're kind of mad, I guess, a little bit right now with what's going on in the world. We also have an acute awareness that we chose to be here right now. There is a reason why we're here during this great awakening. And in the great awakening, there's a great unveiling. And that's actually what we're experiencing right now, is seeing all of the illusions we bought into and all of the corruption we played into unknowingly, right? It's nobody's fault. Just we were hypnotized into not looking at the things we needed to look at. And so the great thing about the Akashic records is that it's all just truth and love. Our guides store this energetic document for us. They access information for us with our consent to let us know, what is our purpose in this lifetime? Why did I choose the parents I did? Why did I choose the skin color that I did? Why did I choose to live in the area that I did? How is all of this shaping me to learn what I came here to learn and to contribute what I came here to contribute? And because it's just love and truth, it really holds a vibration of truth. So anything that is an illusion will be busted. So it's particularly helpful right now because there's a lot of information out there. We're in a massive heightened information war that we've been in for many, many years that we didn't even know we were in, which is inflaming identity politics. And we're seeing what's happening with that. But even just all kinds of stuff, right? And so I can go into my records and say, this article that I read, is it true? Oh. And they'll show me what parts of it's true and what parts of it are not. So it actually saves me a lot of unnecessary emotional response mechanisms. You know what I mean? Like I'm not getting puppeted. My emotions are not getting puppeted to the degree that they could. Okay. I can make more clear decisions. I can make decisions for my family. And I can decide what my role is during this. So it would be easy for me. I have a big justice uh, archetype, and I did that for many, many years. And I'm a big light warrior, right? That we were told this was the year of the light worker at the beginning of the year, and I don't think we really knew what that meant. And now we're very clear what that means. So I've decided my role is, okay, great, you're awake. Now what? You're awake to what's really going on in the world. How can I support you in still being able to hold space for you, hold space for your community, run your business, create your own financial sovereignty without getting sucked into the play within the play, right? That's kind of how we're feeling right now.
Right.
So that's just me, but everyone has their own role. So it's great for the Akashic records are great for giving us divine guidance so that we're not wasting energy on things that are not in alignment with what we're here to do. Then on top of that, it's very healing to hear the truth. And additionally, our guides can do healing on us. So if we have a recurring health issue, for example, that's eroding at our vitality, they can let us know, oh yeah, back in 1822, you had scurvy and you died from it. And that's what, whatever, right? I'm just making that up.
Yeah.
But also because of the vibration it holds, it's a great tool for manifesting. So that's why I say it's really the only tool we need, because we get guidance, we get healing, and we get manifestation energies all in one session if we choose it, right? Because everything involves free will. And like I said, it's a great illusion buster. So most times we welcome that. There's times where we kind of want to hear what we want to hear, right? People used to come for sessions with me and they'd want it. I met someone at a bar last night. Are they my soulmate? And I'm like, well, if we have to ask that question.
Yeah.
And additionally, do you really want to know the answer to that? Because, there's certain questions I've learned that people think they want to know the truth about, but when it comes right down to it, they just, myself included, right? Like there's just some things we think we want to know until we hear it. And then we're like, oh, so
wished have known that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Are the Akashic records something that you can find out, I mean, on your own, or is it something that it is good to like go to someone like you, somebody who I guess specializes in it or something, and have them help you uncover it, I guess.
Yeah, it can, I don't do readings anymore except within long-standing business containers because I've just done it for so long that I don't need to do them for the sake of doing them, if that makes any sense. I have a lot of people on my website that have been trained. So I do have a training system. I do think it's helpful. Like I have a free gift on my website, which gives people the process of how to tap into their records. But what'll happen is we've been taught to question ourselves. We've been taught, when we know things, right? Think of all the times we've quote unquote known things. We've told our teacher, we've told our parents, and they say, well, how do you know that?
Right.
Prove it. Where's your evidence? Right.
Yeah.
And we start to develop this unconscious response that unless we can really explain something with logic, that we don't know if what we're hearing is true. And so people that have been subjected to that, I was one of those folks. It's a weird dance to know things, but also to feel like you have to justify it. Yeah. Additionally, some people were made to feel like they were going crazy because they were hearing things or seeing things that other people weren't. So they don't want to tap into a tool that essentially is going to put them at risk of being called crazy and being ostracized and so on. So the reason I share that is because, yes, I do believe that people really feel called to them, and the records really just call people. We just know, even if we don't know what it is, as soon as we hear the words, we're like, oh, I need to learn that right now, or I need to access that. Gotcha. That's more of what I encourage people to pay attention to. And then if you step into a system like mine, I go over, well, what's the nature of the oversoul? How is your oversoul guiding this aspect of your soul that's in this body right now? How do we identify your spiritual language so that when your guides are talking to you, you understand how to access that, but also you understand what your roadblocks would be. So if you're clairaudient and you're hearing voices, right, you start to learn by practicing that, oh, I'm not crazy. I'm not hearing crazy people in my head. These are actually my guides, that kind of thing. So I think it's great to be in a supportive container, but anyone can access them. It's a matter of, do I believe that I can? There's
Mm.
also some teachings out there that say there's just a few chosen people that have been chosen by I don't know who to
Right.
give them permission to
Yeah.
ordain them and like wave a wand over them to tell them that they're qualified. That is not true.
Yeah.
Obviously we wouldn't be given, each of us wouldn't be given an Akashic record if we weren't able to access it, right?
That
So
makes sense. Yeah.
so I would also encourage people, it doesn't have to be with me, I would just encourage people to be mindful and tune into their body and pay attention to,
Mm.
does this feel tight in my body, or does this feel, you know, kind of free flowing in my body when I read this information? And that's a pretty good indication that, you know, we're leaning into the truth or we're leaning away from the truth.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. So that helps me a lot. And so maybe I'll go to your website myself, because I keep coming across it, and I've found that when something like this like comes across my awareness, it's for a reason, and I'm meant to
Mm-hmm.
start checking it out, because if I ignore it, then it just I tend to get hit on the head with a 2x4, not necessarily literally, but in a way, it's like, pay attention. So I will pay attention to it. Um, I read in preparing for the interview that you are getting ready, or maybe you have already released a new book called Money Made Easy. So is that?
Oh, yeah. So I do have a money book called Heal Your Money Story.
Hmm.
And we were, it's interesting because just before lockdown hit, we were working on a TV show and working on the book. And then we've just pressed pause on it for right now
Oh,
because, first of all, I can't travel.
right.
And secondly, you know, my relationship with the media and my relationship with big business in general has changed with the
Hmm.
awarenesses that have come into my field. So
Hmm.
I have to be really mindful about who I'm going to align my energy with. But that being said, yeah, I do have a book on healing your money story. And that was born out of the Akashic Records, actually. So
Oh.
I started seeing all these patterns for folks, especially healers. We're very good at sabotaging our money, right? We're very good at deciding that we're not spiritual if we have money,
Mm-hmm.
or, you know, somehow deciding that if we have it, we're less than, if we have it, we're more, you know, whatever.
Exactly.
And, and so there's a lot of reasons why we block money. So I decided to download all those reasons and help people understand what are the patterns, like what
Mm.
patterns do you fall in, but then how do we get to the understanding of what the actual fear is underneath the pattern? The pattern is just a byproduct of the fear. Because once we deal with the root cause of anything, then we can move forward. But with money, it's interesting because I've come to learn, and through honoring my intuition, that money, our relationship with money is just a journey, right? Like we all have a money story. So it's not a matter of whether we have one, it's a matter of how healthy it is. So our goal is to just keep expanding our consciousness around money, with it simply being an extension of the universe, right? And how do we do that? But especially for business owners, we know we have to get our money house in order, because all we do is talk about money all day every day. We chase people for missed payments, we ask people to invest this amount, we have to decide what we're pricing things, we pay vendors, we collect from vendors, we like everything on some level involves a money conversation. And so it's pretty cool that not only is business a great healer and a great teacher, but then money, which is naturally tied in with that, is as well. So if you want to accelerate your stuff, if you want to accelerate your growth, start a business.
Yep. You got to deal with the money. Oh yes, I have learned this so much. It's been a painful lesson because I've been in business for over 10 years, and it has not been an easy road because of all of the limiting beliefs and things that I've had. And now I have a cat meowing beside me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, money it's definitely been an issue for me, but one that I'm finally have working on, because I have been dealing with uh, number one, figuring out what those were, what my own money blocks
Mm,
were, and being able to now um, shift my thoughts and beliefs around that, and really honoring that I do have value, for one thing, and so and what the work that I do has value, and people do appreciate it. So there's no reason why I can't ask to be paid for that, because we pay other people for services in our lives, doctors, lawyers, what have you. So if you're going to be in business, you've got to get over that and be able to value who you are and what you offer, and then price it accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Any last advice would you have for entrepreneurs, and maybe even, I don't know, if not necessarily regarding what's going on right now, but maybe let's say, well, let's wave our magic wand and that, we're past this, and we're, lockdowns are over, and hopefully they've invested in their businesses and prepared themselves. What else can a business owner do to be successful? Let's just put it at that. What else should they be thinking about or doing?
Ooh,
I know it's a big question.
wow,
A lot of stuff.
that's a big question.
If you had to pick like one or two.
No, it's a great question though. I like to I like to start at the meta level and then work down in any answer I give. So on a meta level, I would say it's always important to get clear on our values, our personal values, and then how is our business an extension of that? Not because our business needs to be an extension of us, it actually shouldn't be, but the values that are important to us should be reflected in the company culture, right? So for me, freedom is a big value of mine. It's huge. And so I really stand for sovereignty, body autonomy, financial freedom, all kinds of things. And so when I speak to that, when I do podcasts on that, when I make offers and design programs, it's all in relation to that. Then I can live with myself. One of the values I've just recently discovered, I mean, I know it's there, but I didn't realize how important it was to me until all of this went down, is justice. And so that's the one area that I wasn't really infusing into my business as much as I could. Right? Like I donate a lot of money to different causes, and they definitely have a justice vibe. But if I'm for sovereignty for all people, then where do some of my business policies and where do some of my donations need to go that are truly reflective of that as a core value? So that's something that's happened for me. I do feel like we have to hire for our future. Everything that we do, the ideal client we want to call in, the programs we design, the headshots we get done, the website we design, anything we do for our business always needs to be from that place of where am I 2 years from now? Because by the time that stuff gets done, it allows us to step into that container quicker, but also it allows us to not outgrow that. I think most times when people get a new website done, they're like, oh, this already feels boring. Or they get their headshots and they're like, oh, I already feel like I've outgrown that person or whatever. Same with our team. We tend to hire for skill. We don't tend to hire for who can grow with me, right? And so we can have a lot of turnover, especially in the online world with virtual assistants and so on. And then with that in mind, because we're going to change constantly and our ideal clients are going to change constantly, we always want to be in tune with what does the business need to let go of, because we can, but it's more challenging to let things in when we're still holding on to stuff that isn't working anymore. And I talk with people a lot about that right now, because we are grieving our old selves in a lot of ways. And there's some pieces of our business and some pieces of the type of client we used to serve or the way in which we used to serve them that's just no longer resonating. And so we need to give ourselves permission to almost have ceremonies like every quarter, right? And have like a thank you for being here. I'm now going to retire this part of my belief or whatever. And then of course it goes without saying, mindset. I really believe that the majority of our success is tied into mindset with aligned action. So if we can create all the plans in the world, but if we're not willing to gamble on ourselves and we're not believing that the plan will come to fruition, then it's kind of just wasted energy.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that idea of thinking about 2 years in the future, because that is, it's so funny because it took me over a year to get the content of my website done. My daughter is a web designer. She had the design done. She was just
Mm,
looking at me to write the own copy. I'm great at writing copy for other people, but doing my own, that always
mm-hmm,
cover. And of course, as soon as I had it done, it was like, yeah, because I had changed it, and like, so right now I'm already changing it, but now I want to really keep that in mind about thinking, where do I want to go, and start and really thoughtfully now think about that and write the content with that in mind. I think that's awesome. It's just because it just,
mm-hmm,
especially if it takes me a little while to get it done, but I know that it's not going to this time. Um,
mm-hmm.
but I love that. I love that idea of it. And I wanted to ask you actually one other sort of question related to this too, because I was having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. She was she's a coach, and she was very concerned about trying to come up with who her ideal client is. And she'd been working with a coach who kept saying, "Oh, you've got to niche down, niche down." And I was getting to the point of saying, I think you're attracting these other types of people right now because you're just relaxed about it. When you're focused so hard on trying to attract, I should be getting women. That's who I thought was my ideal client, and she's not attracting them really. So,
Mm-hmm.
how have you found I mean, is there value in this? Having a niche, or what are your thoughts on that? I was just curious.
I think there's it depends on the business, it depends on the offer, it depends on the business model.
Mm,
So, for example, if I'm going to have a one trick pony business, so
mm,
maybe I'm going to just sell memberships on how to paint by numbers. Let's just, and there's nothing wrong with that, but let's just
right.
assume that's my business.
Is it
Here's your paint kit. We're going to paint by numbers.
right? Yeah.
Then my job is to just constantly sell memberships.
Mm,
So my job will be volume. How
right.
can I keep expanding my list to sell this low ticket item
Yeah.
to this type of person? So in that case, I have to really know my customer because I'm only selling one thing. So I have to really, really know who's buying a paint by numbers kit.
Mm,
In a business like mine, where I have a few different things, I have certification programs, I have group programs, I have one-on-one, I have masterminds. I'm since COVID, I've been making way more money than I even planned on pretty low ticket stuff
mm,
because I wasn't focused on the money. I was just focused on helping people.
right. Right.
So there's a time and a place for that. I know I work with women, I have to work with spiritual women.
Hmm.
And so, but I write to one person. When I write my posts, when I write my copy, when I write emails, when I design a program, I have one person in mind. Now, obviously, it's going to resonate for more than one person,
Right.
but I really write from the heart, and I say, okay, if I could love this person up and give them everything in the world that they would need to create X, what would that look like? And that translates really well because I actually don't have a long ideal client list. I like people who pay me joyfully, right? I
Mhm.
don't need to hear about all the stuff you had to
Right.
do in order to pay me because you're not paying me. You're investing in yourself through my business. I'm holding
Exactly.
space for you. I don't need the drama.
Right.
Uh, and I don't want to chase people for money either. So
Mhm.
I work with established business owners, and they need to be woo. But I don't care if they have a brick and mortar. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
as long as they are established. They have personal responsibility. They have emotional IQ, and they don't bring their money drama to my doorstep.
Yeah.
Right. And anything out of that, it's anyone's welcome, honestly. And I have men that I work with too.
Yeah.
It's just that men tend to not seek out my type of business,
Mhm.
and they tend to not ask for help in the same way. Women really want to bond. They want to feel in sisterhood. They
Mhm.
want to have community. There's different things women crave, and so my type of business tends to create that. And so um, I guess that's what I would say, because yeah, some people get way too crazy about ideal avatars, and it's a great distraction because as long as I'm figuring out who I'm serving, then I don't have to serve anyone. I'd love to serve people, but I still don't know, right? And I would say no, we just focus on serving, and especially now, if what's going on in the world isn't enough to light a flame under people, to get out there and just help people, just frickin' help people. Oh my goodness. Like the strongest people even are needing someone to just be like, what is going on? I just need someone to hold space for me and debrief about what's going on. Like,
Exactly.
there's so much need for what all of our gifts are.
Yeah.
And I still hear people say, prior to COVID, they're like, I didn't know. And now they're still like, I have to figure it out. I'm like, well, if this isn't enough to just have you put yourself out there, I don't know what you need to get out of your own way and stop making it about you and start making it about other people.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. That reinforced, because that was essentially my advice to her, was to focus on the quality of the person and what you described, someone who was willing to invest in themselves, someone who doesn't bring the money story. That was exactly pretty much what I told her too, because it was like that, focusing on that is going to make so much more sense. So I love that. Awesome.
You can tell I'm passionate about it.
I
I'm
know,
like, get another thing.
Absolutely. Oh goodness. Now I've got a dog scratching at my door. So that's why I keep, for those of you watching on YouTube and you're like seeing, why does she keep muting herself? Oh, and then I just see a tail going by. So it's been raining outside. And so the dog is desperate to come inside here, but
Wow.
she'll be all right for a minute. Before I let you go, I wanted to ask one other thing, which is, if someone wants to be able to connect with you and they really resonate to what you've had to say today, what's the best place for them to find you? How can they get connected?
Well, I do have a quiz for business that we just launched. So if people go to souljourneys.ca/quiz, they'll be able to find out their business archetype and how it relates to how they make money and so on. So it's been cool to get feedback on that because people are enjoying that. I also spend a great deal of time on Facebook. So I have a group called the Purpose Posse, which is free for people that are very woo and want to, join a group with people speaking their language and people that are, beyond the startup phase. They're ready to scale their business. So those are probably the two best ways to get in touch with me.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I will definitely have that in the show notes as well. And so thank you so much for being here and being such a lovely guest and really enlightening us with your wonderful advice and wisdom. And I wish you well, and hopefully we'll be out of lockdown soon and you will be able to get back out and do other things that you want to do. But I know that you're doing all your preparation work, and there goes a cat trying to get in the closet now. It's a great recording from home. I love it. You just can't control what's behind me, but it's all good. Anyway, so thank you for being here. I really appreciate it, Jennifer.
Thank you.
And for those of you watching and listening, I really appreciate all of you as well. Thank you so much. And I look forward to connecting with you again. And as always, you can get the information, go to liveloveengagepodcast.com, and you'll be able to see this episode as well as previous ones. And until next time, I encourage you, as always, to go out and live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.